Okay, today we have my friend and my pal Lem, who is the owner and CEO of 24/7 branding agency. So we have today Lem. He will be speaking about the essence of branding. We will start with an introduction to branding. We will follow up with a branding presentation. We will dive deep into the color theory, and finally we will wrap up with branding identity. So the speech to Lem. So Lem, tell us more about an introduction to branding. What is branding? What is including?
Awesome. First and foremost, thank you, Chris, for having me on. It's a pleasure to even consider, having me talk about this topic that I truly believe a lot of entrepreneurs lack information on or direction. So thank you again for giving me the opportunity. Well, to get things started, um, intro to branding. So there's a lot of things we got to uncover about this topic because for years and centuries, there's been a huge misconception on what the term branding actually stands for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Quick history lesson. So, once upon a time, and long time ago, branding was as simple as getting a logo design done and colors, and you're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
That time has since passed. There's an evolution showing you from research that branding is much more than just getting logo design. In
Okay.
fact, before there was graphic design, the term that was used was called commercial art.
Mm-hmm.
It was called commercial art, and then from being called commercial art, it then was called graphic design. And at the time, again, people would just go hire a designer, pay a small fee, get flyers made and logo made, and that's all they needed.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's known that branding is much more than just the graphics. There's other sides to branding. So one thing I want to cover to you guys is that there's two sides to branding. And it's something that I put together, which you won't find on Google. Like you can't Google this. This is something that I put together from my own research, from my own studies. So I put together what I call the 3 P's of branding.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose is I want to create information or value that even someone that was 10 years old could easily digest and understand branding. So I put together the 3 P's of branding. The first P is perception.
Mm-hmm.
Second P is experience.
Mm-hmm.
Third P is feeling. And this is what your audience, your consumers, your clients get as they engage with your brand.
Okay.
Again, perception is the first one. Second one, experience. Last one is feeling.
So
Now,
how you describe if one business owner will just hit the button to have a call with you, so you work together, how will you describe with these 3P that you mentioned as the branding presentation? What will these key factors that you would like to know from this business owner so as to create a sustainable branding presentation so he can take the decision to follow up with more things about branding?
to answer your question, the first thing is to understand their goals and values.
Yep.
Where do they want to go? And that becomes the next part. So there's two parts of branding. There's what we call inwards branding and
Mm-hmm.
what we call outwards branding.
And what's the difference?
So inwards branding is your positioning, your messaging,
Mm-hmm.
your tone, your
Mm-hmm.
identity. You can't really see the inward, but this is what your clients experience when they get engaged with your brand.
Okay.
That's your internal identity.
And what is
Um,
external?
the outward branding
Yeah.
is going to be your logo,
Mm-hmm.
your colors, your design concept, and your
Mm-hmm.
typography. That's what you see
So we
visually.
can say that it's like a yin and yang, that it's like a spirit of the business and the body of the business, that they are together communicating so as to give a beautiful result, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And I like how you put it together. So I always say that good branding
Mm-hmm.
is when you have a good internal brand and a good external brand. Or in
Mm-hmm.
other words, a good inward brand and an outward brand.
Okay.
That will make a good brand. And fun fact is that everyone is already branded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everyone, once you put a product or a business idea out there, you're already creating those BPs, which is a perception, experience, and feeling. The question is, are you branding good? Is it being intentional? And brand strategy is the act of creating a roadmap to be more intentional of how you want to be perceived.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we come in and provide strategy to our client. So with
And
that
how
client,
and how
go ahead.
color theory, because as I see from you, for example, because we had a call previous time about the branding strategy, and you mentioned it about color theory, okay, means that when we select, I'm not sure, but you can tell us more, that you told me that
Mhm.
the colors of the logo of everything is like a company. The company in everything. It can be social media, can be, as you call it, inward and outward. Is that correct about the color theory?
All right, so color theory. So what is color theory first and foremost? So color theory is a studies of how colors influence human behavior. Again,
Mm-hmm.
color theory is a study on how colors influence the human behavior. So that means that I'm sure all of us have this before. We built a brand or business and we said, hey, my favorite color is blue and green. So I'm gonna use
Mm-hmm.
those colors.
Mm-hmm.
Or my favorite color is yellow. I'm gonna use that. But the problem with that is that when you're building a business brand, or a strategy, you're designing something that has to align with your ideal avatar or your
Mm-hmm.
ideal client. So with psychology, so because psychology, it teaches you the meaning of each colors.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
it shows you what red means. Red
Mm-hmm.
means excitement.
Yeah.
Blue means trust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when you're making a decision on what color to use, you're going through that color psychology map to see how can I combine a color
Mm-hmm.
that properly aligns with my industry.
And how? Let's take an example about the color theory of your own brand. What did you think? What was this core values that you mentioned that you considered to create inward and outward so that your business branding is reflecting these things?
So our inward strategy is to build trust. To
Yeah.
build trust, to also provide education,
Mm-hmm.
and to create a bigger image for smaller companies.
Mm-hmm.
Third branding strategy.
Mm-hmm.
The color that we went with was blue, white, with a little bit of extra yellow.
Mm-hmm.
Why blue? So in the brand color chart, blue represents trust.
Yeah, yeah, is correct.
And because we're dealing with people who are business owners and sometimes personal information, we're willing to trust us.
Yeah.
You know, blue also means peace. So our internal values of educating want to see,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this company, what they're giving you is trustworthy information. Also,
Mm-hmm.
blue and white is also a very corporate look.
So
And
this
we
is
want to attract
creating some
high-end
kind
corporate
of
clients.
chemical of chemical reactions in the mind of the people. So correct?
Correct.
Okay, got it. So what kind? So as I understood, the blue color in your business is about trust, and you tend to create to want to build trust from the first sight. Correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
okay. So the first touch that that some business owner will see in some brand that has a good branding strategy is like we say that when someone is going for interview in some job, the first
Mm-hmm.
15 seconds are the most valuable. So is that correct that the first seconds might unconsciously create a good or bad opinion about the company?
That's correct.
Mhm.
And put it this way, people see with their eyes before they engage in conversation. Let's
Mhm.
take, for instance, if you're out there dating somebody, you know, listen, people say looks don't matter, but looks do matter. If
Mm-hmm.
you see a woman that you like
Mm-hmm.
and she looks good, that makes you want to have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
That opens the door. Now, if what they say to you is negative or is just
Mm-hmm.
you having a bad attitude,
Mm-hmm.
now you say, okay, you're attractive, but I don't want to deal with you because you have a bad attitude. So branding internally and externally the same way. So your visuals, which is your outward brand, will attract a conversation like from your consumers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, this is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's up for your internal strategy, which is your client experience, to keep them either returning as clients or sending referrals to you, or keeping your business in the mind of that consumer.
So we can say that this is some kind of identity. Is the first steps of identity for the brand that's accompanying them all the time.
Exactly. You
Okay.
know, I would say your first impression gets them to like commit to you, and then internally you got to actually like create a great client experience to say, hey,
Mm-hmm.
this brand is meaningful, like Apple or like Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
like Nike.
Mm-hmm. So if some business owner will just see this interview and he understands, of course, what needed to be done, that of course he has to follow some kind of branding strategy that you already mentioned. How would you describe, how would be your approach to this business owner that might, after this interview, wants to make a call with you because he saw the value for you and wants to make business with you? What would you advise before a call?
Before a call, and that's a great question, my brother. Um, so one thing I tell people is that there's a difference from a graphic designer and
Mm-hmm,
brand strategy.
mm-hmm,
I, or in other words, a task designer and a
mm-hmm,
strategist. So a graphic designer, typically, if you say, hey, I want to build a logo with a house on it, I don't have green, pink, I don't have orange, I don't have a flower there, they're gonna
mm-hmm.
design exactly what you requested.
Yeah.
Because it's a task.
Mm-hmm,
Um, when you go into a brand strategist, it's like going to a hospital.
mm-hmm,
If you have stomach pain,
mm-hmm,
your stomach is hurting, and you go to a stomach specialist, you can't say, "Hey, I want you to give me this medicine, this procedure,
mm-hmm,
and this treatment because how I feel like." They're like, "No, sir," or "No, ma'am, that's incorrect. I went to school for years. I'm the specialist. I'm the expert. And according to your blood work, according to your lab results,
mm-hmm,
according to your symptoms, we prescribe you take this medication,
mm-hmm,
you take this procedure." So, in the whole, our branch is the same way. Only decide to make this step forward in higher strategies if you're open to taking creative direction and saying, hey, I want to get a strategic expertise of how I should approach my design. How should I present myself? How should I create an inward strategy? If you're looking for a specific idea that you already have and you want it done this way and this way only, my advice is to go to graphic designer. If the
yeah.
idea is already in your mind. But if you want to bring idea to life and you want creative direction, you go to that expert.
Yeah.
To
So we
say,
can say, yeah.
so so we say as a strategist, according to the research, according to your strategy guide,
Mm-hmm,
according to like who you want to attract, we prescribe that you create content or create a brand
mm-hmm,
that represents this.
yeah. So I call the business owners that they see this interview with them that it's great to book a strategy call that they will be like patient that is sick, as we call the business. So what we'll do, Lem, is about to see, to examine, to see what's the problem. So he can prescribe the medication, means what they have to do for branding strategy. And of course, if you feel secure, if you feel safe, and you trust Lem, so my advice is to go and work with them. So any other
Awesome.
question? My pleasure. Any question before we close this interview about the people that take votes or what? Some tip
Uh,
maybe?
um, I think that's the most important tip is being open to taking that direction. in the strategy, because it starts with mindset. Not everyone can work with a brand strategist.
Yeah.
Some people is good to work with just a graphic designer. If you already have an idea and you already see visually what you want it to be done. Or work with a strategist if you want creative direction. In other words, if you guys want a strategy, I offer free strategy calls Monday to Friday. They're free of charge to see how we could possibly work together. I could send my email in the chat. It's Lem at 247ceobiz.com. Let me write down in the chat.
Okay.
I copy it. It's Lem at 247ceobiz.com. So if any of you guys receive value from this interview,
Lem, can you open the camera?
Oh, hold on. That's not good.
Okay, we are here.
All right, so you guys could email me,
yeah,
and I'll get you guys a private call one-on-one.
So finally, we can say that branding is included in the mindset. And why mindset? Because a business owner that has an abundant mindset is thinking not temporarily, like a small logo, but is thinking holistically, like a big idea that if he's hiring a coach, if he's hiring a Facebook ad specialist or whatever, he needs also to hire a branding strategist that he can take his business and, as Lem says, to rebirth. Is it okay?
Yes, sounds good.
So very nice to have here, Lem. So very good, and bye.
All right, you have a great day. Thank you again.
Bye bye.